Good morning or good afternoon, everybody, as you're joining us. I see everybody's moving over. We have a lot of people moving from the waiting room into the webinar. We'll get started in probably about 2 minutes. Okay, I've got 10:02 and I'm going to go ahead and be respectful of everybody's time and get us started. Thanks for joining us. I'm Pippa Edelin. I'm the worldwide marketing lead for Avocor. We're excited to be with our other partners today, Logitech Salamander and Modus VR. We are going to go ahead and record the session. Couple things. We encourage question and answers. Go ahead and type them in the Q&A box. We will be addressing a lot of them during the presentation, as well as at the end of the presentation, again, to be respectful of time, but please feel free to send them over. I've got a couple people you guys can't see on here helping me answer those questions in real time. So love to hear your feedback on it. And with that, I'm going to kick it over to my friend and colleague, Scott Srolis at Salamander Designs. Scott?
Thank you, Pippa, and welcome everybody. We hope you're safe and well. Thank you for taking time to join us for this transformative webinar. As Pippa said, my name is Scott Srolis, and I'm the head of sales and marketing at Salamander Designs, one of the key partners featured in today's session. I think we've heard the term return to office, and now we're starting to live it, and we're seeing increased demand in video conferencing areas and equipment that we sell and service for our clients. There are many moving parts with returning to office. Facilities professionals reevaluating floor plans and real estate portfolios, software developers designing mobile applications to provide scheduling of rooms and desk space so that when employees arrive, not only do they know they have a personal space, but they feel safe as well. All in the spirit of optimizing collaboration and productivity. For today's session, we are going to focus on the return to office and the digital transformation of the modern workplace. The modern workplace continues to evolve over time, and in the now, the same unified communications and collaboration tools that connected us remotely during the pandemic is being considered in more spaces than ever before inside the office. With all of these spaces being considered for video conferencing, the challenge is how can we save time working with all project stakeholders, designing and remodeling spaces that were not designed in the first place for video conferencing. It is important to do the right thing and help design video-first rooms. And we would like you to consider using software that we're using today, Modus, for video conferencing design capabilities for your clients as well as yourselves. Today, we are going to show in real time how to remodel spaces. We're going to do this on the fly, so please bear with us and don't try this at home. I am thrilled to have the following colleagues with me today. Please tell us who you are and what you do and a little bit about your company. And we'll start with Chris Descato from Salamander Designs. Chris?
Hey, Scott. I'm Chris, Director of Sales for Salamander Designs. And Salamander, it builds all the furniture that you're going to see here today and the mobile carts. We do this out of Bloomfield, Connecticut. And we pride ourselves in building beautiful designs that also work expertly with technology.
Great, thanks, Chris. And we also have Dana Corey from Avocor. Hi, Dana.
Hey, Scott, thanks for having me here. Yeah, Avocor, one of the fastest growing interactive flat panel manufacturers in the world, partnered up with Salamander, Logitech, in many cases with certain product solutions around Zoom and Teams and others. And I just have a broad portfolio that focuses on interactivity for corporate collaboration. So excited to be here.
Great, we love having you. And we have our friend Alex Mooney from Logitech. Alex?
Hey, how's it going, everyone? Thanks so much for having me, Scott. And yeah, I am from Logitech. I work in our video collaboration group. I focus on our alliances with all of the partners that we're working with here today, as well as people like Microsoft and Zoom and Google and others. So really excited to be here and talk about some of these transformative video conferencing concepts as we move towards hybrid work.
Well, we love having you here, and thank you for taking the time to join and for going through this adventure with us. It's been a lot of fun. We also have our friend Ken Bruick from Modus. And Ken, why don't you tell us a little bit about the tool and give us a tour around the office?
Sure thing. Thanks, Scott. My name is Ken Bruick. I'm the founder of Modus. For the rest of my introduction, I'm actually going to be in VR wearing a headset. And so I am that green floating head and green controllers here. Modus is a real-time design, sales, and collaboration tool built specifically for the AV industry. Our customers are AV integrators, consultants, manufacturers, as well as corporate enterprise. And Modus is all about getting the stakeholders on the same page when it comes to an AV project. One of the biggest differences when it comes to Modus compared to perhaps 3D renders that some might already be familiar with is that Modus is meant to be brought into the conversation as early as possible because Modus is a real-time decision-making platform. And so to illustrate that, we're going to go on a quick tour of this space that's been built. This is a space that might actually exist. You could use Modus for projects that don't already exist yet, perhaps a building that's in the planning phases. But if some quick housekeeping items, if you're not familiar with VR, if you've never done it before, there's a couple of things to keep in mind. So both myself and Alex have VR headsets on. Give him a wave, Alex. So Alex introduced himself earlier. Alex is joining us from Texas. I'm in Utah, but we have come together virtually in this space so that we can work on some things together. But then also all of you on the webinar are participating as stakeholders without VR hardware. And that's really how a typical Modus session works. You can get all the different stakeholders in on the project to discuss things on the fly. One other thing you'll notice is throughout this demo, I'm going to have this blue dotted line appearing from my controller from time to time. That's how I'm going to navigate this virtual world because it is much larger than my physical office. So if you guys want to follow me here, we'll take a quick tour of this project that we've built out. We've got a couple of conference rooms here on the side. On the right here, we've got a large conference room. We're going to spend a good amount of time in there. Off to the side on the left here, we've got our entryway. And then we'll actually start off in this small room up to the left. But the biggest thing about Modus is everything can be done in real time. And that's where the power comes into play. When you're looking at traditional 3D renders, for example, those usually come into play after all of the decisions have been made, which is usually too late. With Modus, you can see the result of those decisions in real time so that that precious time of your stakeholders is respected. So now we're in the small room. I think this is about a 13 by 15 conference room. Alex, what are your thoughts on this space here?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we understand that, maybe 2 years ago or so, a lot of our spaces, we could really get away with designing them for this kind of office centricity. Basically, there's no collaboration tools in this space. Maybe there's like a phone on the table or something like that. It's really designed for people to sit across from each other face to face, maybe even have a whiteboard on the wall that they can draw on. But it really doesn't help us with collaboration. Right now, we know that, number one, 70% of communication is actually nonverbal. We really need to be able to see each other's faces. We also know that about 60% of users that are responding to surveys are saying that they actually want more in-office or in-person interactions, while simultaneously, about 67% of companies are saying that they're going to be embracing this remote work. So hybrid work is here to stay. There's no avoiding it. And so we need to find unique opportunities to rapidly convert these spaces, put in collaboration tools, and make them really functional to create that equity of experience between in-office workers as well as out-of-office workers.
Awesome. Thank you, Alex. So what do we need to do to change this room to make it better for this hybrid workforce that we're talking about?
Yes, so the first thing that I would do is you kind of nix that table and those chairs.
Okay.
You can do that for me?
Certainly.
Yeah, there we go. And then what I would do is put in one of our Salamander huddle spaces. And what's
Okay.
nice about this piece is that it can go onto any wall. It doesn't need any support from the actual wall itself. So in this case, if you put it up against the window, it can be finished on the back. So the other side, you see something that is nice. It can be a different wood color. Lots of different options there. And what's nice about this setup as well is that whiteboard can still be used. Or you down the road, maybe they want to have an interactive flat panel from Avocor instead of the whiteboard. So that can still be used, and the camera, you can actually pick that up as well. So the people that are remote could also participate with whatever is being drawn on either a virtual or actual whiteboard.
And Chris, how many people would fit at a space like this?
So with this particular model, it's a 4 to 5 person table. We calculate how many people can fit at a table at about like 2.5 to 3 feet per person. So this works great for up to 5 people, and then we obviously can also do tables that are longer if the needs of the job were greater than the 5 people.
Got it. And how about as far as cable management and everything else? And, I see that the panel is integrated onto the cabinet. Is that how that works?
Yeah. So instead of having to worry about wall construction and conduit in the wall, and you're probably blocking, everything is self-supported by the furniture here. And then underneath the table is a wire trough that goes the complete length of the table. So any cut-ins that would be in the table, those wires could go back into the cabinet, and then up to the display or down to power or the other equipment. Inside this cabinet, it's 12 inches deep. But it comes with standard 3 RUs of racking, and you can actually add more as well.
That's great. And Dana, how about as far as screen size? What are you thinking display size for a room this size and this many people?
Yeah, definitely a 55-inch, and maybe Ken, you could throw some content up there.
Certainly.
The goal here is to engage video in the room that was not there before. It's to leverage the BYOD through your cable management, either obviously wired or wireless. I'd actually ditch the analog whiteboard and put it all on the digital, allowing me both to share content from my laptops, in a BYOD scenario, where I'm simply just leveraging that technology, or being able to interact with the screen and pulling it forward. So just bring video in. So now we've got the ability to bring our remote workers in and collaborate.
That's
We
terrific.
need something else to help us with that, though.
Yeah, we do. So Alex, do you have anything that can help us for this size space?
Absolutely. Yeah. In a space about this size, first things first, you're going to want to make sure that you have some kind of a really simple way for users to just walk in, tap, and start their meetings. And so we do have a controller that can sit there on the table, integrates really nicely. And that is available in a couple different flavors. We, of course, have those. They work seamlessly with all those video conferencing providers out there. So whatever your tool is, we've got that covered. And then for the camera, I would definitely consider using a Logitech Meetup in this space. It's a fantastic product. Again, works seamlessly with those tools you already have in your space. And so you're going to get a really great audio and video experience out of the room.
And would you recommend this below or above the screen in this case?
Yeah, that's a great question. I often will put that above the display, and that way you're getting a little bit of a nicer experience looking at those users.
And for a size, with that camera soundbar that you selected, would that pick up the sound from the microphone and also amplify the speakers enough for the folks in this room?
Yeah, that's a great question. In a room this size, your meetup's going to be perfect for that. You're not going to need any additional audio or whether that's microphones or speakers for the space. And then as we look at other room sizes, you definitely have the ability to customize that.
That's terrific. I mean, this room in a very short time, I would say about 8 minutes, has really come a long way. We took it from a non-video conferencing solution to a fully optimized video conferencing first solution in very little time. And I think we can all see that the room clearly now is ready for the now. Hey, Ken, would it be possible for you to snap a picture of a 3D image of this room? So afterwards we can send the before and after out as part of the email that we're going to send out to the group?
Yeah, definitely. There's a handful of different outputs we can generate from Modus. One of those is a 360 view, which is a really powerful way to help the stakeholders understand what that whole room solution is going to be like. So definitely, please help us remember, and we'll put that together at the end. And we'll take a bunch of different snapshots throughout the whole space once we're done.
That'd be great. I think everyone would like to see that. And then they could, if you were really designing this room and collaborating, we could mark up those sheets and be prepared for our next meeting, looking at the space before and after the design has been complete. Why don't we head over to the larger room? And as Ken mentioned earlier, this is where we're going to do the majority of our design work and show off the software tools, as well as how to truly take a room and optimize it for video conferencing. Alex, what are your thoughts on this space?
Absolutely. In a space like this, we obviously see that, tables and so forth, chair layouts have often been really optimized for users to sit across from each other. There's not a lot of consideration for example, where the display is. Is it at the right height? Can everybody see it? Things like where we put the camera. It doesn't create an equitable experience for the remote user. And if we see more and more of our workforce being remote, up to now even 2/3 of participants in a meeting being actually, whether they're at home or in another space, we see that a space like this just doesn't provide an equitable experience. So one of the things that we definitely want to consider is, number one, why is this room not working for the remote user? And then two, how can we fix it and make it more of an equitable experience and give people the best experience? So maybe, Ken, maybe you can show us some of the reasons why this room really doesn't work.
Certainly. So far, we've been using Modus to visualize furniture placement, kind of the major blocks of a room. But Modus is also very good at articulating and visualizing some of these more abstract concepts, especially when you're dealing with stakeholders that may not be technical. Once you start talking about microphone pickup patterns and camera field of views, you might lose some people. And if you lose them, then they're going to have a harder time buying into the best solution for their needs. So we're going to quickly show you some of the different tools that Modus provides to help with that. We're going to start with the camera here. So for every camera that's in Modus, we have the ability to visualize its field of view, as well as its pan, tilt, and zoom capabilities. And I'm going to turn this on as a quick visualization. Anything inside this blue projection here is going to appear in that far end view. But even more important, we can let you see what that far end view is going to be, so you can really understand what those remote employees are going to go through. And to help illustrate this, I'm also going to turn on some blue heads. So we've got our Blue Man group here today, all meeting together. And right away, you can see this view is not great. Very first thing is this chair needs to go. But on top of that, this particular camera has two main problems. One, it's placed very, very low in the room. And Alex, would you mind helping me rotate some of these chairs? Because now these people are going to be looking at the camera a lot more than they used to. With this camera down low like that, we're getting an unflattering view. We're looking at people's noses, but also we have some potential modesty issues for these front two chairs, and that's a problem. Second, with that wide field of view, even when I'm way out here off to the side, I'm getting just as much room in that camera shot as the meeting is. And that's really not great. We need a camera that's going to be able to focus in on the attention a little bit better. The other issue we're running into is because of the shape of this table, all of the viewers are lined up. So we get a great view of these front two people and that one individual at the back end of the table, but everybody else is going to be blocked. So we also need to do something about this table. Moving on to audio, we have another issue. So this microphone placed at the center of the table typically does just a fine job when everybody is sitting at the table looking across from each other. But Modus also helps us visualize its pickup pattern. And so when we look at this microphone, yeah, it has a very standard fare radial pickup pattern. And we can see that everyone in here is picked up, but there's a problem. Once all of the participants start facing towards that camera and that screen, we run into an issue where these front 6 participants are now facing away from the microphone. And what does that mean for the meeting? Well, it means these 6 people are not going to be heard. And those poor remote employees are going to constantly be saying, I'm sorry, can you say that again? I can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, exactly.
Can you hear me now?
It's frustrating. So this microphone is no longer adequate, and we need to change that out. So we're going to delete this. We're going to delete that camera. And then one last piece that's also really important. Some of my most productive moments in my career have been in front of a whiteboard with my colleagues. You get that real-time ideation of things where you're kind of riffing off of each other's ideas. You're sharing the marker. When half of your workforce is participating over Zoom, you can't use a traditional whiteboard for that. They can't add to it. Chances are they aren't even going to be able to see it, and they're going to be left out. So we need to come up with a better solution there as well. So we're going to scrap that whiteboard. So now I want to hand it over to Chris. What do you think is the very first thing we should do differently with this room?
The first thing that we should do is get a new table in there, but a different shape. So for video conferencing, and especially for how everyone on the other side is going to see, everyone in that room, I would recommend a trapezoid shaped table. And this has the benefit of both having the remote user easily see everyone that's at the table, but also everyone that's at the table doesn't have to look around other people as much in order to actually see the screen and be on camera.
Okay. So we've put in the 16 by 5 foot trapezoid table for you guys. Should we mess with different finishes? Maybe we can come back to that. I always like the gray walnut. I have to use that one. It's my favorite.
Thanks.
Okay.
We made that for you.
Yeah.
Hey, Chris, with the Salamander table, what are some of the other items that you can do with it besides it just being a table?
Yeah, so you guys mentioned the walnut finish, and we have a wide range of finishes, but we also work with designers and architects and facilities managers on exactly what the finish needs to be for their environment, right? So we go off book and we do custom matching all the time. And then what you'll notice about this table is that the base of it, which we call the pedestal, runs down the center of the table. That makes hitting your core on the floor very easy. Many tables, the problem is only, say 2 legs, and then everyone's really trying to figure out making sure that the core is going to be in the right place. With this, as long as it's somewhere in the middle, it's very easy to do. And that's something that comes up again and again with Salamander, is we're really trying to make the installation and the design as simple as possible, with flexibility for the real world situations that happen when somebody makes a slight error and all of a sudden the core is 5 inches away from where you thought it was going to be, and now you have a problem. So that base is nice, and also those side panels come completely off along the entire length of the table. Makes wire management in there very easy to do, and because of the height of that pedestal, all of the depth that you need for, say, gravity fed retractors, it's going to work perfectly. So there's no wire mess that you're going to see underneath the table or on top of the table, because of the way we designed that pedestal to work with whatever technology you're going to put in the table, whether it be microphones, retractors, and so forth.
Okay, great. Thank you, Chris. So let's move on to video and interactivity. Dana, what do you think we should do in a modern conference room like this?
Yeah, first I need to apologize on my internet, because the way it works, my internet's struggling at the moment. So if I do break up, Pippa is going to back me up here. She's better than I am too. So if anytime, just wave at me or something saying it's not working, because I can't tell. But yeah, so at this point, obviously we brought the table in. We now to bring video in. This size room, I think I'd bring in 2 86-inch panels. Probably one side obviously showing video, and one side showing content share. We've now brought both the far end in and their content and ours, and now we then begin to interact, whether it be, once again, through BYOD or to the actual panel interacting back on the content, back onto the panel. So really just delivering that video experience. We ditched that analog whiteboard back in the corner once again. Now we have persistence of content we can share. We can all collaborate on that, whether it be remote or in room. And then not to mention beautiful images that are then really more engaging and allowing people to collaborate at a much better level.
Yeah, and the picture quality is not washed out anymore now that we got rid of the projector.
Yeah, and not to mention, if I stood in front of that projector, guess what would happen? I have a silhouette of myself on the screen. So.
That's right. Yeah. Okay. Wonderful. So now let's get back to that far end view. Alex, what do we need to do here?
Absolutely. So the first thing that you want to consider in a space like this is making sure that not only can everyone in the room, but also out of the room can both be seen and heard. In a space like this, I would definitely take a look at Rally Plus. So that's our Rally camera, along with the two Rally speakers. And I would also consider placing that camera either right above, sometimes even in between the displays. It really depends on your experience. But for those modesty considerations, I like to have it at least above eye level. And so that way you have that camera there, it can see everyone. Now the Rally camera also has a 15x total zoom length. That's 5x optical zoom. And that means that you can really get all the way across to the far end of the table and you can see that far speaker. But it's also has what we have is called right sight. It'll automatically crop and adapt to zoom in on the person that's actually speaking. Okay. And then of course we have our audio. So we need to drop a couple of Rally Mic Pods on the table, as well as our Logitech Tap touch controller. And that'll finish out our video conferencing experience.
Okay. And really quick, how was that far end view? Was that a lot better? Do you want to show us that one more time, Patrick? I also want to point out one other quick thing here. Any camera that's in Modus, we also have the ability to do the full pan and tilt capability. So if you are trying a camera in any particular spot and you want to know how well that camera is going to perform, if it works in Modus, it's going to work in real life. So you can very quickly try different solutions. So for example, had we tossed in the Rally bar from Logitech and found it didn't quite have enough pan and tilt, we could then switch to the Rally Plus like we did here and get that extra capabilities for it. All right, thanks, Patrick. That's all I wanted to show there. So just like we showed the microphone pickup pattern with our first, we can also show that with all of the Logitech mic pods as well. So Alex, do we want to kind of put these on the table near these ports? You already got them there.
Absolutely.
Okay, great. Okay, then let's go ahead and show the mic patterns on those. Make sure we've got good coverage here. And let's see how we're doing.
Yeah, absolutely. You definitely want to be able to position these in a really nice space. So you see that this mic pattern is going to be a little bit more convenient for the users in the room. So these front speakers, they're going to have the microphone conveniently located near them. And the Rally Mic Pod also has that mute button right there on the top. So it's conveniently accessible for everyone on the table, whether they're near the tap or either one of the mic pods. So it looks like we've got a pretty nice mic coverage now.
Great.
Looks much better than it was before, Alex.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
We get to now, because of things like Zoom rooms, I could have both control at the table with tap or at the panel, right? So both the experience of sharing across, so I don't have to have just control at the table or at the wall. I can have both. Leverage that power, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. When you first walk in from the outside and you see we have these nice glass doors and you walk in, I put the tap up on a riser mount. That's going to just elevate it slightly so it's more visible to the users. And we expect people would just tap and log in. But having that ability, I mean, if you wanted to quickly whiteboard or share content, or you wanted to control something from the front as a presenter, having that dual control capability is fantastic.
Yeah.
I have a question from installation. You know, how difficult of an installation is this?
From the Logitech perspective,
easy.
Yeah.
Well, in VR, it makes it really nice and easy. And everything's wireless too in VR, if you haven't noticed.
Wireless and powered by magic and love.
Yeah, that's right. But, you know, I wanted to, you know, Chris, when it comes to, you know, putting these 86-inch Avocor panels, does Salamander have a solution to make the installation go as smooth as the table and the other huddle table went?
Sure. So first, let's just start real quick of what this typical installation would require, right? So these displays here, what they would need is backing in the wall, right, to support the weight of the displays. There would need to be conduit in the wall. Electricity would need to be moved up. And that takes coordination with multiple trades, right? The Salamander solution, which Ken is going to pop in there, solves multiple problems, including ADA. So right now, what you'll see is that there's 3 outlets that are right there at the bottom. And this cabinet, can be as wide as needed. And what's nice here is it's going to hide those outlets. And then when you put in the mount, there's no need for any wall reinforcement. These are UL listed to hold a dual 400-pound displays and this 12-inch footprint just requiring drywall anchors. So it goes in very, very easily. And also it's nice, it can cover those outlets. You can even make it wider so to cover the outlets over there, making the installation look better. And also ADA compliant, right? So these displays, they're going to stick off the wall 4 inches or more, and typically you would actually need something below it for ADA compliancy anyways. This is solving all those problems, and also a great place to store your gear. I know that more and more people sometimes put the gear behind the display, and that makes it a little harder to access, a little bit harder to service. Instead of that, everything goes in the cabinet. And then we solidify all of the heights that are required. So for example, in this particular installation, the camera is above the display. Those Logitech Rally speakers are on either side. All of those mounts would come with the actual cabinet, right? So the mounting for the displays, the mounting for the camera, and the mounting for the speakers, along with the specified heights. So for example, this happens to be the camera above, perhaps in your organization, you like the cameras below at say 46 inches, right? So we would actually now have a higher mount and have the ability to mount the camera below the display. So we work with the AV department and the AV spec writers on exactly what the AV needs are. We work with facilities design and architectural on what the finish of the cabinet should be, whether it's one of our standard high-end hardwood veneers, or we're going with something else that's in the room, or matching existing laminate or millwork.
Thanks, Chris. That's terrific. And thanks everybody for your contributions to this room. We were able to retrofit this room, not only in VR, but in real life, using an existing space very quickly. Let's, Ken, can you take us out to the open plan?
Yeah, let's jump out to this flex area here. Alex, when you look at this space out here, what are your initial thoughts as we look at the changing workplace?
Yeah, absolutely. So first things first, we obviously know that in spaces like these, with more and more spaces needing to be video enabled, that this kind of format is not as helpful. But hey, let's take a few looks at how we can quickly deploy. I think in an open office, we often see a lot of different sort of styles and layouts that we need to be able to rapidly deploy video. And in these kind of spaces, we see everything from soft seating to other kinds of maybe alt style tables and so forth. So maybe we can just quickly take a look at how we can rapidly deploy video conferencing in a space like this, maybe make it modular.
Yeah, well, and this is where Modus really starts to shine, because when you're looking at an open area, sometimes the solutions aren't immediately obvious. It's one thing when there's clearly a wall where a screen should go, and it's just a question of what size screen. In an area like this, you have so many more options. Yeah,
Hey,
Scott?
Ken, is that clock keeping the right time? Because I'm looking at my watch and the clock is.
It'll depend on your time zone, but it is doing it's working its hardest to do it.
That is so cool. So to add on to what Alex was saying, just putting it into terms, right now video conferencing is needed in all different places, and what we see happening is by bringing in, as you're doing here, a Salamander cart with an Avocor screen and Logitech unified communications products, we're able to create places in the open plan for people to collaborate. Chris, anything that you want to say about this particular setup?
Yeah, so this is using one of our extra large carts. Our carts go up to a 400-pound weight limit. Again, you all listed very safe. And a few things that people absolutely love about our carts is, one is how absolutely solid they feel. When people come to our showroom, or the first time that end users experience it, whether they get one or at Infocom, as they're moving it around, they can't believe how it's not flexing. Most carts, especially with heavier displays, as you're rolling it around, it's kind of all jiggling, right? In fact, one quote that I loved from a manufacturer was, the reason why they recommend our carts is because when someone goes up and starts touching the screen doesn't actually wobble, right? Which is nice. And then from there, all those same abilities that I was talking about with the cabinets, with mounting your speakers and your cameras and your touch panels and all of that. We have the brackets for all of that. And then also this cart can have 5 RUs of racking and storage cover. And I think one of the best things is adding on our 30-foot reel of retractable power cable. So no matter what environment you're wheeling it into, you could always find an outlet to plug it in.
All right, thank you so much. And we really appreciate everyone staying with us today, and we wanted to get to your questions. Sometimes the live collaboration goes a little over what we expected, and that's a good thing. So Pippa, any questions that anyone has for the group that we can answer?
We've actually done a pretty good job of answering as we go. There have been questions around like Modus, what's the pricing for having the software, and we'll connect. Just so you guys know, after this, we'll send all the screen captures that they've been talking about that we've been doing by each space. We'll send that out along with a contact for each of the companies listed on here today so that you guys can get back. And then there was also a request for, could we include an equipment list for each of the spaces? And I said, yes, we absolutely could.
Oh, that's terrific.
Yeah, and I think I'd probably expand a little bit on this one. Just the biggest thing that we're hearing and from both partners and end users, just this idea like the space is doing, is that we have a very dynamic workforce right now. We need to be fluid on how we execute collaboration. We know that we have to democratize the experience across all users, whether it be in-house or at home. And then in these spaces like we're doing here, taking a more traditional area and making it non-traditional and making it so that we can have multi-collaboration for that spontaneous collaboration. So if we have workers who are working from home or beginning to transition back, we've got to give them spaces to be able to have the best experience one together. And through the cart and the panels and the Logitech, we can execute a level of collaboration that was not seen before, but at a price point and an advantage that is advantageous, right? And I think the other big beauty here, with especially the Salamander stuff, is when we're done with this maybe mixed work or hybrid space, these things can all go into fixed locations and not lose that investment, which is a huge thing. So
I think, Dana, what we've seen over the last 14 months is video collaboration and all digital strategy is here to stay. We're all there now, quickly.
Yeah, and I think the last thing on that too is all of us are ubiquitous across the UC platforms. And in many cases, like the case of Logitech and the others, we can operate in the best practices possible with Zoom, Teams, Google, you name it. And that's also the power, right? Is to be able to facilitate that, not only from hey, what's the device on the wall or on the cart, but can it move with me? Can not only physically move with me, but also maybe some of my platforms? The answer 100% yes across all these pieces. So that's another huge advantage.
That's great points. Thanks for sharing, Pippa and Dana. Just a couple final thoughts. One is we had a lot of fun today, and we hope that you did too. And being able to come into our VR Modus environment and create these spaces for you. And this, like I said, and we've said before, this was truly on the fly. It was very difficult to rehearse because it's truly happening in real time. So that gives you the power of what you're able to do in designing rooms for your own use cases. But having said that, on behalf of Salamander and our colleagues, Avocor, Modus and Logitech, we really enjoyed you spending your time and sharing it with us today, and we'll send you an email, and we hope to hear from you all soon. Thanks so much. Have a great rest of your day.
Thanks, everybody.